how to build a fat loss plate without counting calories. Sean here from Fit Fusion Brotherhood. I've owned a gym for 10 years. I've coached thousands of clients, and one of the biggest stresses that some people can have is knowing how to eat and get results without tracking calories. Now, I'll be the first one to suggest tracking calories can be one of the best things you can do to make sure you're losing fat, but it's not for everyone. So if you're not a big fan of tracking calories, maybe it stresses you out, maybe it's just a pain in the ass, whatever it is, I'm going to give you a framework how you can get results and build your perfect fat loss plate without actually having to track. So within our Fit Fusion Brotherhood program, one of our nutrition protocols is called Eat Like a King, and we essentially show you how you can get results without tracking calories. Now, there's a lot that goes into that, but one of the things that we do talk about is how to build a plate that's going to work well for you. So in this video, I'm going to show you what you need to do to build that plate. I'll explain why and also give you some other tips to consider as well. Okay, so when it comes to building out that fat loss plate that works specifically for your goals, there are two must-haves that you need to do, and there are other two optional or flexible depending options that may or may not work best for you. So let's start with number one. This is the foundation. So anytime you're having a meal, this is the first thing that you need to think about, and you're gonna build the rest of the meal around that, and that's protein. Okay, so most guys are protein deficient. We don't get nearly enough. Even if you think you are, you probably aren't. So the first thing that you're going to have to build out when it comes to your fat loss plate is what type of protein are you going to put. So I typically like to count a quarter to even up to a half of the plate full of protein, especially if it's the leaner variety, like a chicken breast, like some white fish, egg whites. These are things that you can have a lot of volume because the calories are low and the protein's super high. So the reason that protein is so important and the reason that we have it as our foundational element is because of all of the benefits that you get from protein. Number one is it's going to help you feel full for longer. One of the biggest challenges when it comes to nutrition and fat loss is the fact that you just feel hungry all the time. You feel like you can never eat enough without gaining fat, but having enough protein is going to help curb those hunger cravings. That's really going to help you get your results. Also, this one's super important when it comes to protein. When you're looking to drop fat, you're not just looking to lose weight. You want to lose that body fat and build and or maintain muscle. And protein is going to help with that, especially if you're also having a strength training routine, which you absolutely should be doing. Okay, so protein should be the foundational element, the first thing that you're talking about, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, or even a snack. This is the foundation. This is the centerpiece. Number two, this one's more relevant when it comes to meals rather than snacks, and that's vegetables. So vegetables, you can have as many as you want, as much as you want. The reason this is so powerful is because you can have a ton of food volume, so you can have a ton of veggies, but the calories are so low that you can pretty much eat to the point where you're full and not go over your calorie limit. So vegetables are going to be an absolute powerful game changer for you if you're looking to get those results without tracking calories. So when it comes to vegetables, in terms of the size on your plate, I would say minimum 1/3 to a half, if not more. So you can go really crazy here with your veggies. This is going to, like I said, help keep you full, and it's going to make sure you get that food volume so you don't leave your meal feeling hungry. And then the next two here, these are going to be dependent on your goals and kind of how you're eating in general. So the third one is going to be your carbs. Now, some people do a lot better with carbs than others, but just because carbs can be bad for others doesn't necessarily mean that they're inherently bad. And when I say they're bad for some people, the tolerance is just a little bit lower. So maybe you have your carbs and you're feeling bloated, you feel like you just gain weight a lot quicker with the carbs. Keep in mind that's not actually fat, but it might affect your body composition. So the type of carbs that you should be having, ideally for the average person, not everyone, is going to be those slow digesting carbs. So sweet potato, brown rice, some fruits. These are things that are also going to help your performance at the gym. Okay, so this should be the third thing that you consider. It shouldn't be the foundation of your plate. It shouldn't take up a big part of your plate. Typically maybe a quarter or less if you do well with carbs, or if you know that you naturally have a difficult time putting on weight, you can have more. So carbs would be the third part of the plate here. Again, optional. Some people opt to just go with a ton of protein and a ton of veggies. Keep in mind, veggies are carbs. So just because I say you can go without having these slow digesting carbs, doesn't mean that I'm saying go no carb, because every veggie and fruit that you have are carbohydrates. Okay, so it's not a no carb diet at all. And then the fourth one would be fats. Fats is a tricky one because fat has more than twice the amount of calories than carbs and protein. So you don't want to go crazy here with the portion size. The only time I would add fat is if you're not cooking with any sort of olive oil or butter, or you have any sort of sauces, because these things are inherently fattening. Yes, they are healthy. Yes, they can be good for you, but they also really add up and make it super difficult to lose body fat. One of the things that I've noticed over the years of doing my own transformations back and forth is that I find it much easier to lose weight, keep it off, and be sustainable when my fat is moderate to low, because it allows you to eat more food. Okay, so if you are using cooking sprays and stuff like that, you can introduce some fats like avocados, you can add some eggs, you can add some fattier fish, nuts, almonds, that kind of stuff. But if you're already using olive oil, you're cooking with butter, or you have condiments and sauces, I would keep the fats to a minimum. Like I said, you don't want to go no fat, but the chances are, even without you realizing, you probably get enough fat in your diet already. This is especially relevant when it comes to fat loss. There are a few other bonus tips that you may find really helpful when it comes to building out your plate and just making sure that this works out for you long term. So we talked about the template. Protein is the foundation. Veggies, non-negotiable. They should take up a big part of your plate as well. Carbs really depends on your goals, how often you're working out, and how well you do with carbs. And then fat, depending on whether or not you're cooking with oils, all that other stuff, but you want to moderate fats as much as possible. So I'm going to give you some tips here that can also make your life a lot easier when it comes to nutrition. First thing is, you want to eat till you're about 80% full, not fully stuffed. Especially if you're a fast eater, what ends up happening is we typically have our hormones that tell us when we're full coming after we stop eating anyway. So you want to make sure you are proactive with that. Don't wait till you're stuffed to stop eating. Make sure once you get about 80% of the way, then you stop, and then eventually those hormones will kick in and you will feel stuff after a while as well. Another really important thing to do here is to keep hydrated. So the first thing I always suggest if you're not sure whether or not you're hungry is 15 minutes before you're about to eat or planning on eating, drink a big glass of water. If you're still feeling hungry after, then you can obviously go with the meal, but sometimes we confuse thirst with hunger. Also super important to drink water with your meals as well. This can make a big difference. Another thing that you can do if you're still hungry after 20 minutes of your food. So maybe you had a dish that you felt was too small and you're still hungry and you want more food. Two things that you want to add here: more protein, more veggies. Also, it really helps to have a particular order. So maybe you're worried about having too much food. You want to eat the food in the same order that I mentioned earlier. So eat your protein first, eat your veggies second. If you're still feeling hungry, then you can have some of your starchy carbs and or some of your fat as well. But eating things in those order are going to make it much easier for you, because it's much easier to go through the carbs and the fat when you're already hungry. But if you're feeling full, you're going to have a much easier time making sure that they stay off. And this might be the most important thing. You don't have to be perfect all the time. If you're doing well 80% of the time, you're going to have a much better chance of being able to get those results and maintain it versus people who are perfect and then fall completely off the wagon. So using this template can help, but also some of those tips mentioned earlier can make a big difference as well. So to wrap things up, yes, tracking your calories are great and can be very helpful, but you don't have to do that. By using this template, you can really get those results you want and be able to sustain them long term. If you do want to find more information like this, we put together a free group if you're a man over the age of 30 who's looking to drop body fat. Check out the description and the comments for the link. Join for free, take action, get the information that you need, simplify your life. If you do enjoy videos like this, do a huge favor, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.